Hi, I'm Guy Tranian. I'm a professor of education at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
And I'm Cody Tallarico. I'm the arts education specialist at the Nebraska Department of Education.
And this is another episode of our Integrating Technology with the Arts from TechEdge. And today we're going to talk about two music apps, which I'm really excited because, as usual, I know nothing about music.
All right, well, our first one is called Sheet Music Scanner. And this is an app where you can take a score, so a printed sheet of music, and you can scan it in. If you have it in like Google Drive, or if you have it in your Fourscore or some other app where you have your scores on your iPad, you can just open it in it, or you can take it from camera. I'll warn you that is a little tricky, and a scan usually works better. And so what you do is you go ahead and import it in. I already have some in here. Okay. And so like if we were to go to Ferry Me Across the Water, so it's going to open it. And what this app does, just taking the optic scan that you have in there, it can play all of the parts in it.
All right.
And so I was a vocal music teacher, so all my scores are vocal music. And it'll go through and it'll play the voice parts, it'll play the piano part. You can turn parts on and off. You can make it go faster and slower. You can even modulate the key. Say you're getting ready for a district music contest and you don't have an accompanist that's handy right there, or you don't have the piano chops or the time to play for your kid. You could at least use this. It's a little robotic, but you could use this to get them used to the accompaniment. Or if you have student accompanists, then they could practice with their soloist with the AI sheet music scanner before the soloist comes in. Gives them a couple times through. So let's go ahead and try it out. Press play.
All right, I'm pressing play. And which part am I playing right now?
I think you're gonna play all of it. So let's go ahead and see. Oh, and so we're just playing the melody.
So it's a MIDI sound.
Yeah, it is. It's a little robotic there, yep. So, and then if you want to change some of the different sounds, and you'll select down at the bottom.
What am I selecting? The question mark?
And,
okay, I can stop. Oh, here I select. Yeah. So I can change pitch and tempo. I can do multiple voices. Let's see that.
So now we've got that. Yep. And this particular piece is in 7/8 time, and it's even doing a pretty good job reading that as well. So,
and here we can change the instrument, so we can do bass guitar. My sister plays the bass guitar, so we will do that.
Yep, so now everything's coming through as a bass guitar sound.
Okay.
Yep. And then down here, so the actual instrument pitch, and so that's for your transposing instruments. Like trumpet is written in the key of B flat, so when they play a C, it actually sounds like a concert B flat. So you can do that on and off too. And then you can transpose it. And so, let's say you're working with a group, and this isn't for district music contest where they're gonna, judge you on that. You can, transpose it up or down. So maybe you don't have the transposition skills. I know as a piano major, I'm only good for a couple steps out. But if you want like a fourth or fifth away, my ability to do that on site is somewhat challenged.
Okay, so right now I've got it.
You've got the flute going.
No, that was oh wow! I did not notice that there's more instruments here. So there's quite a variety. I did the choir. All right. So I can see that there's handwriting there, and it ignores the handwriting, right?
It does ignore the handwriting. The one thing that I have noticed is, so on your system, and where you're connecting all of the voice parts and the piano parts underneath. And so if that line isn't nice and clear, then it assumes that it's two different parts. So sometimes you might need to take and just make sure you've got your systems up and down so it's connecting all of the parts together.
Yeah, and that's because you're scanning. So just like any other scan, you've got to make sure you've got good lighting, you've got a good copy, and if not, that may create some issues. And as a teacher, you want to make sure that it's not creating issues for our students before they go home and practice with something that doesn't work.
Right. And I should mention too that, this isn't necessarily to replace a live accompanist or anything, but to give you the tool to be able to continue working. Or if you had, a quartet, and so then the student could play his or her part along with the other three parts, even though those individuals might not be
So
present.
how
And
do
so-
you turn on parts?
How do you turn on parts?
Yes.
And so we're playing different voices.
Uh-huh.
So then you would turn that
Oh,
off.
okay.
And for your multiple voice parts there.
And then we're playing just that one.
Yep.
And if I want to change it, do I click here? Oh,
Mhm. And then it's just playing the right hand of what's the piano part in this particular score. The other thing to mention too, of course, when you are scanning in a score like this, is not to violate copyright. And
Yeah.
so you still have the original score, and it's not to bypass the purchase of the original score. You're just using it for study methods.
All right. Anything else you want to add about this?
No, I think
All right.
there's lots of possibilities. So it's been one that I've really enjoyed using. The second one here is called
Mhm.
Moises. And Moises is a music transcription. So it'll take an audio piece. And so I went online and there was some free music from a composer, Randall Strambridge. And then I loaded it in. And so if you hit play, and so it's going through, it's showing you the key changes
Mhm.
here. And then if you take your sliders, you can take a part out.
Oh, wow.
And so let's say, you're getting ready. This is pep band music. So, and your drummer is gone that day. So you could slide all of these off and you've just got the drums. And so then your band could practice with the drums.
Oh,
as well.
excellent.
So, and this is great, too, you can transpose and it'll do it, right in time as
Mhm.
well. And give you all sorts of different options. You can speed it up and slow it down right as you're playing.
So this is similar to the previous app, except that here the source material
Is
is audio and not the sheet music.
Right. Yep. So, and this would be great too, like for jazz band, if you're getting ready, a soloist
Mhm.
needs to practice with the different chord changes that are happening, the instrument part underneath, then he or she can see the chords that are happening so they can, be listening to that and then fitting their solo that they're working on within that chord structure.
Mhm.
And rather than having to have the rhythm section there all the time, they could record it and that person could practice at home and make their jazz solos.
So here's where I come to, are these paid apps? What do you need to log in to both of these?
So Sheet Music Scanner does have a monthly subscription. You can
Mhm.
turn it on or off at any time. And Moises, this part of it I think is free.
Yeah.
And then it does have in-app purchases where you can do more things with it for subscription.
Okay, but it is available for free.
Yep.
Okay.
Certain parts.
So Moises is available for free, but certain things there are in-app purchases. So as a teacher, find out if it's got what you need, and then consider if there is a recommendation to do more. Then you have to think about where does the money come from,
Mhm.
who gets it, how many of those do I need, and all of that. Most districts have the ability to purchase in an organized way, and that's what you really want to do. If you're doing it for your own personal practice, you can always go around that on a personal device, but not on a school device. So you really have to think through it.
Mhm.
And it's always nice if you have a personal device to first play with it on your own
Yep.
before you recommend that this would actually work. On a Sheet Music Scanner, it is a paid app.
Mhm.
And so that is something to consider, how and how much you want to include that and how central it is to the work you're doing.
Mhm.
And then try to find the opportunity.
Mhm.
I know that in music, not vocal music, but in music in general, there are a lot of costs.
Yeah. Yep.
My kids were in marching band, so there's the uniform, there's the instruments, there's the whole show and everything else. So in a way, that makes anything extra a little bit more complicated. But if the cost is not horrendous, it's somewhat easier because there's always a cost
Yep.
associated with the work. So it makes it sometimes easier to add something small, but
Yep.
something that can help in a very meaningful way. I think about my kids because I don't play anything, but my youngest son, for example, plays the flute, and he does play in concerts with an accompanist, but at home to practice, he doesn't have that.
Yep.
So this is a perfect solution
Right.
for practice at home, not necessarily for the concert itself.
Yeah,
Again, we want the
absolutely.
accompanist there.
Right. Yep. And, I think about too, when I was teaching, my accompanist would only come in for the concert. They
Yeah.
never got to practice with the kids.
Yeah.
Well, I was a piano major, so I could jump on and make recordings, but the amount of time that I spent making recordings, or the intercom would come on during the recording or whatever, or I'd rush.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't realize it until it was with kids. So, to be able to dial it in, if you will, and just have it, it would save me a lot of time when I was in the classroom. So
Yes, and it takes the pressure off. You can still do that if you want,
Right.
but if not, there's a clear, easy solution that kids will have access to, and therefore they can do the work.
Yep.
And you don't have to rush or fidelity or anything else.
Yep.
So it's a way to make your life as a teacher easier.
easier, yep. And it gets you up from behind the piano, because my kids, all of a sudden their classroom management was a little different when I was busy trying to play as well.
Yeah, you're not looking at us, you're tucked away behind, so physically it's far away.
Yep.
All right, so today on Tech Edge, integrating technology with the arts, we talked about different ways to use technology to help in music
Mhm.
education.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time on Tech Edge.